All right, art criticism number 4. The title information up here is right at the top, so we are going to fill in the artist's name is Alexander Calder. The title of this artwork, because he is French, he titled it in French. It is Le Grand Vitesse. I'll explain what that means later. The date of the artwork was 1969. So go ahead and fill in those 3 title info, and then pause me while you're doing that. Unpause me when you are ready for the describe section. Okay, because this is a slightly more simplified and minimalistic artwork, we only have to describe 3 things in our red sculpture. One of the things that we can describe is that it's red. And pretend that this is an L here, not a K. In my defense, they're next to each other on the keyboard, but whatever. So we can say we're just talking about the red sculpture, by the way. You're not talking about like the sky behind it or the buildings, like just the sculpture is what he made. So we could say lines that are vertical and diagonal. You could say organic, actually not organic, amorphous shapes, because they're kind of blob-like. Yeah, there's my 3. Go ahead and type those 3 or add your own, and pause me while you finish this section. Unpause when you are ready for the analyze section. Okay, analyze. If we go down here, in a complete sentence, explain what types of lines and shapes were used. Guess what? We did that in describe. And where you see them in the artwork. You will also need to explain what technique to create contrast was used. So if we come over here, the lines we talked about, there are vertical and diagonal lines in the, we can say legs of the sculpture. For shapes, we talked about the sculpture is made from intersecting amorphous shapes. And the last one is all about contrast. So contrast is opposites. Where do we see things that are opposite? We talked about for contrast, we talked about color. Are there opposite colors? No. We talked about opposite proximity. Are things far apart? Well, maybe there are. There are actually some like proximity, like the legs of it are kind of all splayed out. We talked about opposite textures. Are there opposite textures? No, it's all kind of the same. We talked about opposite shapes. Are there opposite shapes? Not so much. Nope, they're all kind of blob, amorphous shapes. Are there opposite sizes? Yes, there are. So we have some that are taller and some that are smaller. So you could say there's contrast of size. We also had, oh, now I'm forgetting, value. Are there opposite values? No, not so much. I think that's all 6. Color, proximity, texture, size, shape, and value. Yeah, that's 6. So you're going to pick one of those. I believe we kind of said which one was correct already. I'm going to have you guys go ahead and fill that out. Pause me while you finish this slide here, and when you're done with that 3rd sentence, then we will go on to the interpret slide together. And we're ready for the interpret slide. My phone also went off. Anyway, so interpret. The title translates to the great swiftness, meaning speed. So the artwork is talking about speed and movement, even though the actual sculpture does not move. Calder was known for 2 different types of sculptures, his stabiles and his mobiles. Mobiles meaning moving, stabiles meaning not moving. This is a stabile. But Calder is on the record for saying that this sculpture is supposed to look like it is in motion. And I want you to answer, how does Calder create a sense of movement in a stationary sculpture? So if we look at this, we've talked about things like the lines and the shapes and the contrast. What do we think? Why does it look like it's moving? I have a feeling the classroom is very quiet right now. So it's going to look like it's moving based on its use of lines, right? Because we talked about how diagonal lines suggest movement, suggest action, moving forward. It's the same thing, like it has diagonal lines from the feet. It also looks kind of like an animal, right? It's like these like kind of creepy spider legs crawling forward. So you could write either of those things in the interpret section. Go ahead and pause me while you type all of that up. Unpause me while you are ready for the judgment. I'm not going to write it because there's 2 answers that I just gave you, so you can pick which one you want to do. All right, welcome back. We're going to do the last slide together. That is the judgment section. If you look here, based on the theory of emotionalism. So this one you do not get to pick the other ones. You're going to say based on emotionalism. So to start, based on emotionalism. This is a, and here you're going to say good or bad painting because, and then you have to tell me, is it good or is it not? Emotionalism is, does it make you feel an emotion? So if it made you feel something, then yeah, it's a good painting. Or, well, in this case, sculpture. So we're actually going to change that to sculpture. Or is it a bad sculpture because it doesn't make you feel something? Go ahead and fill in that last little slide there and then submit, and you are all set with this art criticism.